AITA for refusing to hand over my car after my family decided it was communal now. I never expected a fully paid-off car to trigger a family war. But when my parents decided my brother was entitled to it and started telling people I'd agreed, I realized this wasn't about transportation, it was about control. I'm 27F. I've never owned much that was just mine, but my car is. I bought it used, negotiated the price myself, paid it off early, and I'm the one who handles insurance, maintenance, registration, all of it. No co-signers, no help, no shared agreements. It's not fancy, it just works. And because it works, I rely on it. My sibling Aaron, 24M, doesn't have a car anymore. Not because his broke down, not because of some unavoidable disaster, but because the vehicle he'd been driving was never actually his. The owner finally took it back. Since then, he's been loudly miserable about it. Every conversation somehow turns into a story about how hard his commute is, how unreliable rides are, how unfair it is that everyone else has transportation except him. I listened. I nodded. I didn't jump in. None of it involved me. Then my parents started acting strange. At first it was subtle. They stopped asking me normal questions and instead kept circling back to my car, where it was, when I was using it, why I needed it at certain times. If I said I was busy, they'd ask if I was busy somewhere or just busy at home. If I said I wasn't feeling well, they'd ask if the car was just sitting there and used. The questions felt less like curiosity and more like inventory. I ignored the discomfort until my mom finally said it plainly during a call. She said they'd been talking as a family and thought the car should rotate for a while. I asked what she meant. She didn't hesitate. She explained that since I manage fine and Aaron is struggling, it made sense for him to use my car during the week, not borrow it occasionally, not ask when needed. Use it, drive it daily, keep it with him. She framed it like a scheduling issue, like I was being asked to share a kitchen appliance. I said no immediately. The tone shifted so fast it felt rehearsed. My dad said I was being territorial. My mom said I was turning an object into a control issue. Aaron laughed and said I was dramatic, that it was just a car and I was acting like it defined me. I told him it didn't define me, but it absolutely belonged to me. He rolled his eyes and said I didn't even struggle like he did. I asked him what struggling had to do with my keys. He said family shouldn't keep score. I said ownership isn't a scoreboard. That's when voices went up. My dad raised his voice and asked why I was being so difficult. I raised mine back and asked why they were deciding things that weren't theirs to decide. My mom accused me of hoarding resources. I snapped and told her resources aren't communal just because someone else wants them. Aaron muttered that I was selfish under his breath. I told him to say it louder if he was going to say it at all. He did. I told him entitlement wasn't a hardship. After that call, nothing exploded. It compressed. My parents stopped asking and started assuming. Aaron started telling people I'd basically agreed, but was dragging my feet. I found out when my aunt messaged me asking when Aaron would be added to my insurance. I asked her who told her that. She said my parents did. I corrected her immediately. She didn't respond. Then my mom texted me a picture of my car parked outside my place with the caption that it looked lonely just sitting there. I told her to stop being weird. She replied that I was being hostile and that this was why things couldn't be discussed calmly. I told her nothing about photographing my property was calm. Aaron started messaging me directly, not asking, telling. He said he'd need the car starting soon and wanted to know where I kept the spare key. I told him there was no spare key for him. He said I was making things harder than they needed to be. I told him he was confusing inconvenience with injustice. He said I'd never understand because I always landed on my feet. I told him landing on my feet didn't obligate me to carry him. My dad called and accused me of embarrassing the family by correcting people. I asked why they were spreading something that wasn't true. He said I was being combative. I told him I was being accurate. He said accuracy without cooperation was cruelty. I laughed, and he got angry that I laughed. I told him deciding my property was communal without my consent was already cruel. Things escalated sideways. I stopped being invited to things unless Aaron was present. When I did show up, conversations stopped when I walked in. Someone would inevitably comment about transportation struggles and look straight at me. When I pushed back, I was told I was being sensitive. When I stayed quiet, I was told my silence was proving their point. Aaron called me cold. My mom called me inflexible. My dad said I was choosing a car over family. I said they were choosing comfort over boundaries. At one point, Aaron yelled that if the roles were reversed, he'd help me. I yelled back that if the roles were reversed, he wouldn't be entitled to my help either. My mom told me to lower my voice. I told her to lower her expectations. My dad said I was acting like a stranger. I said strangers don't feel this entitled. Update 1. They stopped calling it a request and started calling it a misunderstanding understanding, like the issue wasn't that they wanted my car, but that I was somehow confused about what words meant. My mom called first. Her voice was calm in that forced way she uses when she's already decided I'm the problem. She said, "I think wires got crossed. We're not asking you to give up your car. We're just asking you to let it be useful." I asked her to explain what useful meant because last time I checked, my car was already being used by the person who owns it. She sighed like I was exhausting her and said Aaron would drive it to work and back during the week. That was it, and I could work around it. I actually laughed out loud, not because it was funny, because it was so ridiculous I didn't know what else to do. I asked her how exactly I was supposed to work around not having access to my own car. She immediately accused me of escalating and being dramatic, said I always jump to extremes instead of being flexible. Before I could respond, my dad cut in on the call. He said I was focusing on logistics instead of love, that families don't nickel and dime each other, and that I was missing the bigger picture. That's when I snapped. I told him love doesn't come with mileage limits, and keys don't magically duplicate because one adult is having a rough time. I said if they wanted to help Aaron, they were welcome to rearrange their own lives and property instead of volunteering mine. Aaron grabbed the phone from my mom. He didn't even pretend to be calm. He said, "You always do this. You hold on to things just to feel superior." I told him the only thing I was holding on to was my own property, and if that made him feel inferior, that was his issue, not mine. He called me selfish. I called him irresponsible. He said I was punishing him for things that weren't even that big of a deal. I told him I wasn't punishing him, I just wasn't rewarding him either. My mom started crying mid-argument and said she couldn't believe I was tearing the family apart over a car. She kept repeating, "over a car," like saying it enough times would make me forget that the car was the entire issue. I raised my voice and told her they were tearing it apart by pretending my property had magically become communal without my consent. My dad told me to lower my voice and stop being disrespectful. I told him to stop telling people I'd agreed to something I never agreed to, because I was already getting messages asking when Aaron would be driving my car. He said I was overreacting and reading too much into things. I said overreacting would be reporting the car stolen if it disappeared, and that I was being very restrained considering they were actively rewriting reality. That shut everyone up. The silence on the line was thick and uncomfortable. No one apologized. No one backed down. The call ended with my mom saying, "We'll talk later when everyone's calmer," like I was the one who lost control. That night, Aaron messaged me directly. He asked if I'd calmed down yet. I told him I was calm when I said no, and I was even calmer now. He replied, "We'll see." No explanation. No context. Just that. Update 2. I woke up to my phone buzzing nonstop. One missed call from my dad. 3 texts from my mom. Back to back. All variations of "where are you?" and "call me now." I replied once and said I was busy and asked what was wrong. She answered, "Your brother is stranded." That was it. No context. Just that. I asked how that involved me. She said Aaron had shown up somewhere assuming he'd be driving my car starting this week and now looked foolish when he couldn't. She added that people were asking questions and that I'd made him look unreliable. I told her, very clearly, that no one forced him to announce something that was never true. She fired back that I was embarrassing him on purpose, that I knew he was already struggling and chose this moment to prove a point. I snapped and told her if he wanted to avoid embarrassment, he shouldn't lie about things he doesn't own. That's when she accused me of being cruel. An hour later, Aaron went public. He didn't tag me, but he didn't need to. He posted on Facebook about people who hoard resources while family struggles and how some people care more about control than compassion. The comments filled up fast. People asking if he was okay. People talking about how hard things are right now. People praising him for speaking his truth. My phone started lighting up almost immediately. Messages asking if everything was okay. Someone asked if there was family drama. Another said they hoped I wasn't being too hard on him. I commented once. Just once. My car was never offered to anyone. That was it. No rant. No explanation. Just a fact. The post was gone within minutes. Then my phone blew up again, this time from Aaron directly. He was furious. He said I'd humiliated him, that I made him look like a liar in front of everyone. I told him he didn't need my help to look like a liar. He called me petty and said I loved embarrassing him. I called him delusional and told him to stop building plans around other people's property. He said I was obsessed with being right. I told him I was obsessed with being left alone. That night, my parents called together. Speakerphone. No warning. My dad opened by saying I'd crossed a line by contradicting Aaron publicly and that airing family disagreements online was immature. I told him they crossed the line when they started telling people I'd agreed to something I never did. He raised his voice and said I was stubborn and inflexible. I raised mine back and said said he was manipulative and trying to bully me into compliance. My mom jumped in and said I was turning everyone against each other, that people were talking now and it was my fault. I yelled that I wasn't the one inventing agreements and expecting others to play along. Aaron started shouting in the background. He said I'd regret this, that I was burning bridges I'd need later. I told him threats didn't make him more convincing. They just made him sound desperate. My dad told me to calm down. I told him to stop pretending this was a misunderstanding when it was clearly a pressure campaign. The call ended with my mom saying she didn't recognize me anymore. I didn't respond. Update 3. Suddenly it wasn't about borrowing, rotating, or helping out. Now it was about trust, or rather, accusing me of not having any. My dad called first. No greeting, no build-up. He went straight into it and said he didn't understand why I was being so defensive unless I had something to hide. I asked him what exactly he thought I was hiding in my car. Drugs? Bodies? A second personality in the trunk? He said that wasn't the point. I told him if he couldn't explain the point, then he didn't have one. He said I was twisting his words. I said he was inventing suspicion because entitlement wasn't working anymore. That's when my mom jumped in on speaker. She said she was worried about me. Not worried about Aaron. Worried about me. She said my attachment to the car seemed unhealthy and that maybe therapy could help me let go of control. I laughed. Not a polite laugh. A sharp one. I told her therapy wouldn't convince me to hand over my keys. And if that was her goal, she was confusing mental health with compliance. She said I was being cruel. I told her she was being insulting and hiding it behind concern. Aaron then chimed in, already angry. He called me a control freak. Said I liked holding things over people. Said I needed to feel powerful. I called him a liability. That made him explode. He said I thought I was better than him. I told him no, I just wasn't worse. He started yelling, full volume. He said everyone bends for me. Everyone accommodates me. And this was the one time I should bend for him. I yelled back that everyone bending for him was exactly why he never learned balance, responsibility, or consequences. My dad shouted over both of us and told me to stop antagonizing him. I shouted back that antagonizing wasn't the same thing as refusing to be robbed politely. My mom started crying again and said she didn't recognize this version of me, that I'd become cold and defensive and obsessed. I told her obsession looks like monitoring someone else's property and calling it family unity. Aaron yelled that I was selfish and vindictive. I yelled that he was reckless and entitled. My dad slammed the conversation shut by saying I was no longer welcome at family gatherings until I fixed this. He said I was creating tension and poisoning the environment and that he wouldn't allow it under his roof. I told him that wasn't a punishment. It was leverage. He told me not to twist his words. I told him to stop pretending exclusion was discipline. He hung up. After that, the silence felt loud. No messages for hours. Then I started getting indirect ones. My mom posted vague stuff about losing trust and choosing pride over connection. Aaron liked every post. Someone messaged me asking if I was okay. Another asked if I'd apologized yet. I didn't respond to any of it. But now the rules have changed. It's not about the car anymore, at least not openly. I'll take a quick break here to remind you, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let us know in the comments if you're enjoying the story and tell us if something like this has ever happened to you. It's about loyalty tests and trust narratives and who's the problem in the story they're telling. And I'm very clearly cast as it. Update 4. I got a call from my insurance company in the middle of the day. Not a voicemail. An actual person asking very carefully whether I had recently added another regular driver to my policy. I said no immediately. She paused and said someone claiming to be my father had contacted them to ask about options. I felt my stomach drop. I asked exactly what he'd said. She told me he'd asked what paperwork would be required if my brother became a primary driver and whether it would simplify things if ownership shifted later. I told her very clearly that no one but me had authorization to make any changes, and if anyone contacted them again, I wanted it flagged. Then I hung up and called my parents. My dad answered like nothing was wrong. I didn't ease into it. I asked him why he'd called my insurance company pretending he had authority over my car. He didn't deny it. He said he was just checking options and that I was making it sound more dramatic than it was. I lost it. I yelled that checking options about someone else's property without permission isn't curiosity, it's overstepping. He told me to lower my voice. I yelled louder and told him he didn't get to police my tone after trying to rewrite ownership behind my back. My mom jumped in immediately, saying I was misunderstanding his intentions. She said he was only trying to help Aaron get stability and that I was interpreting everything as an attack. I told her it stopped being interpretation when a third party called me to confirm someone had tried to change my policy. She gasped like I'd said something obscene and accused me of accusing them of theft. I said if the shoe fits, stop reaching for it. Aaron then took the phone. He sounded offended, like I'd personally wounded him. He said, "You'd really call the cops on your own family over a car?" I told him I wouldn't hesitate if anyone tried to take something that wasn't theirs. He said I was heartless, said I cared more about metal than people. I told him entitlement wasn't a medical condition and it didn't entitle him to my things. My dad said I was threatening the family now. My mom said I was crossing lines that couldn't be uncrossed. I said no, I was finally drawing one they weren't allowed to erase. They told me I was acting paranoid. I told them paranoia doesn't come with documented phone calls and timestamps. Aaron shouted that he couldn't believe I'd do this to him. I shouted back that I couldn't believe he thought he could take something just because he wanted it badly enough. My dad told me to calm down and think about what I was doing to relationships. I told him relationships don't survive on coercion and secret phone calls. That conversation ended with my mom crying, my dad telling me I was destroying trust, and Aaron calling me selfish one last time before someone hung up. Later that night, my mom sent me a long message. Paragraphs, screens full of it. Everything they'd done for me growing up. Sacrifices, support, food, shelter, love, all framed like a receipt I apparently owed payment on. I read it twice. Then I replied with one sentence. None of that transferred ownership. She didn't respond. Update 5. They didn't text. They didn't call. They just started showing up. The first time, I didn't even realize they were there. I was inside when I heard voices outside. Low, familiar, too close. I looked out and saw my dad standing a few feet from my car, hands on his hips, slowly circling it like he was inspecting damage. My mom was a few steps back, whispering something to Aaron while he leaned against a fence, smirking. I walked out and said, "What are you doing?" Not a question, a warning. My dad turned and said, calm as anything, "We just wanted to look." I told him to stop pretending this was casual. I asked why they were on my property without telling me. He said, "We're not here for you. We're here to understand why you're being like this." That flipped something in me. I yelled that he didn't need to understand my property. He needed to stop orbiting it like a vulture. Aaron laughed, actually laughed. He said, "See, this is what I mean. You're acting paranoid." I told him paranoia is expecting theft when people keep testing boundaries, showing up unannounced, and trying to change insurance details behind my back. My mom jumped in and said I was humiliating them by refusing to negotiate like an adult. I said there was nothing to negotiate. Ownership isn't a group discussion. She said families compromise. I snapped back that compromise doesn't mean handing over keys because someone feels entitled. That's when Aaron said, loud enough for people nearby to hear, "Don't come crying to us when you need help. Remember this moment." I said I already wasn't getting help. I was getting pressure, manipulation, and trespassing disguised as concern. My dad told me to lower my voice. I yelled louder and told him he didn't get to police my tone while standing next to something that wasn't his. He said I was making a scene. I told him he brought the audience. At that point, people were absolutely staring. I didn't care. My mom hissed that I was embarrassing them and that neighbors would talk. I said good. Maybe they'd finally understand why I stopped being easy. Aaron rolled his eyes and said I'd always been dramatic, that I loved control more than family. I told him control is what people accuse you of when they can't take something from you. He stepped closer and said, "You really think this ends well for you?" I told him threatening tone didn't make him sound reasonable. It made him sound desperate. My dad snapped and told me to calm down or they'd handle this differently. I told him if differently meant touching my car, I'd treat it as exactly what it was. That shut him up for half a second. Then my mom started crying. Loud, performative sobs. She said I was tearing the family apart over an object. She said she didn't recognize me anymore. I told her she recognized me just fine when I was compliant. That made Aaron explode. He yelled that I thought I was superior, that I looked down on all of them. I yelled back that I didn't look down. I just refused to be pushed under. My dad told everyone to leave before things got worse. I said they should have left the second I told them to. They finally walked away, furious. Not quiet fury. Later that night, my phone buzzed nonstop. My mom posted a vague Facebook status about children forgetting who stood by them. An aunt liked it within minutes. A cousin messaged asking if everything was okay. Aaron posted a Snapchat caption, "When sharing becomes a crime." I didn't respond. I didn't explain. I didn't defend myself. But I did block them from showing up again unannounced, at least digitally. Update 6. I found out because a cousin I barely talked to messaged me asking if I was doing okay mentally and if I had someone checking in on me. No context, no lead in, just that. I asked what they meant. They said my dad had mentioned I was spiraling and fixated on my car and that the family was worried. That word, fixated, set me off. I called my dad immediately. He answered like nothing was wrong. I asked him why he was telling people I wasn't stable. He said he never said that. He said I was under a lot of stress. I told him to stop lying to my face. He snapped back that I was proving his point by yelling. I yelled louder. I asked him why he thought it was okay to question my mental health because I wouldn't hand over my keys. He said I was acting irrational and that everyone could see it except me. I told him the only irrational thing happening was him running a smear campaign because he didn't get his way. My mom jumped on the call without warning. She said they were just trying to get support because they didn't recognize me anymore. I said she didn't recognize me because she stopped listening weeks ago. She said I was twisting everything. I told her she'd been twisting it from the start. Then Aaron chimed in, loud, sarcastic, like he'd been waiting. He said, "See, this is what I mean. You always go nuclear." I told him to stop pretending he was calm when he'd been poking this from day one. He laughed and said everyone agreed I was dramatic. I told him agreement built on lies doesn't count. He called me selfish. I called him dishonest. He said I was isolating myself from everyone who cared. I said I was being pushed out and blamed for not enjoying it. He said I loved playing the victim. I said he loved playing helpless until someone else paid. My dad told me I was embarrassing the family by airing this at all. I told him he aired it when he started diagnosing me to extended relatives. He said I left him no choice. I asked him what choice he'd given me. Silence. Later that day, I got another message. Then another. Different relatives. Same tone. Soft concern wrapped around accusation. "We're worried. Your parents are scared. Why are you doing this to them?" Not a single question about what actually happened. Just pressure. I snapped and sent one group message. No screenshots. No receipts. No long explanations. Just a clear rundown. The car was mine. No agreement existed. Boundaries were stated. They were ignored. And now my mental health was being used as leverage. I ended it with, "I'm not discussing this further." Aaron replied within minutes, calling it manipulative. I replied that rewriting reality didn't make it disappear. He said I was tearing the family apart over an object. I said he'd torn it apart over entitlement. My mom said this damage would be permanent. I told her permanence was something they kept threatening me with like it scared me. My dad said I'd crossed a point of no return and there was no coming back from how I'd handled this. I told them they decided there was no return when they stopped respecting a no. The messages kept coming. Some defensive, some accusatory, some pretending to be neutral while clearly taking sides. I didn't answer most of them. When I did, it was short and sharp. Every time someone raised their voice, I matched it. Every insult thrown my way got one back. Update 7. I got a notification from a local social media group. Someone had posted a photo of my car with Aaron in the driver's seat and the caption, "Family comes first. Sharing is caring." I didn't even think. I called him immediately. He answered, laughing, like it was some victory. "Relax, it's just a car. You're taking this way too seriously," he said. I shouted, "You don't get it. You don't touch what isn't yours, period." He scoffed. "Why are you acting like I stole your life?" "You are stealing," I yelled, "because you and my parents have been trying to rewrite ownership from day one." My mom called right after, crying and screaming over the phone at the same time. "How could you humiliate your own family like this? Aaron is just trying to survive," I yelled back, over her crying, over my own anger. "You're calling me a criminal for keeping my property. You've been manipulating everyone to pressure me. You gambled with respect and boundaries and lost." Dad got on the line too, his voice shaking between anger and frustration. "You've gone too far. This isn't how families behave. You're alone in this," I shouted back, furious, listing everything. The Facebook posts, the texts to relatives, the fake concern messages, the insurance request, the unannounced visits, the public shaming. Every manipulation they had tried. I told them clearly, "You wanted compliance, you got confrontation. You wanted my car, you got boundaries enforced. I own it, not you, not Aaron, not anyone else." Aaron yelled something about me never letting anything go and me destroying family trust. I yelled right back that trust isn't built on lies and threats, that if they valued family, they wouldn't have weaponized it against me over a car. The screaming went on for almost an hour. I refused to hang up. They refused to back down. Every time one of them tried to interrupt me, I interrupted back, listing more of the ways they had disrespected me. At one point, my mom accused me of being selfish, and I shouted, "I've never taken anything that wasn't mine. The only selfish ones are the people trying to take from me." Finally, it stopped, not because anyone surrendered, but because they realized I wasn't budging, I wasn't scared, and I wasn't alone. I hung up, left the phone on the table, and didn't check messages for the rest of the day. No one got my car. No one apologized. The social media post was deleted after I called out the truth publicly, but I didn't broadcast evidence, just a statement of facts. I blocked Aaron from messaging me for the night, and I let my parents stew in their own frustration. The end. NTA, not even a little. Your car equals yours. You bought it, paid it, maintain it. Aaron and your parents turned a simple no into a full-blown entitlement meltdown. Guilt trips, lies to family, insurance tampering, trespassing, smear campaigns, fake photos. All because they think family means you owe them your stuff. They're the villains here, not you. Boundaries aren't selfish. Demanding your property is. Short verdict. Hard NTA. Keep the keys. Lose the toxicity. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Got a story to share? Drop it in the comments and let us know which one was your favorite.